see all of you. Score going here because our girls are in Rochester playing. The score is 18-6. We're behind, so we got our tray real quick. But good evening. As most of you know, I'm Sr Judy. I'm the president of Cotter. It's my great privilege to have that job. We are taping tonight, not because I love to watch myself on TV, but for people who can't be here and also for international parents. So some of them have requested that. So I'd like to begin with a prayer, and then I'll introduce my two colleagues. I'm going to use a prayer that came from a student's essay called Cotter's Junior High Prophets. I loved it. It was really neat. It says, "For my prophet project, I've chosen 3 teachers from the junior high, and here's why. Mrs. Goodmanstad is my prophet because she taught me that God is the best thing that could happen to anyone. She also taught me that God truly is our best friend, and he always listens. Miss Wilsbacher is my second prophet because she has shown me that God is always with us in our hearts, friends, nature, and family. Her favorite quote is from Mother Teresa, who said, 'The only way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service of others.' And my last modern-day prophet is Mr. Horton. I've chosen Mr. Horton because he taught me God is within people, around us, and that every day we see signs of God. Mr. Horton also showed me that nature is a reflection of everything good that God has made." So with these wonderful words of inspiration from our students, let us remember that God truly is within us, around us, and present to us this evening. We ask this and pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Isn't that a wonderful essay? That was a great, a real boost. I'd like to introduce my two colleagues, Mr. Sr Judy, who is the principal of Cotter Schools, his first year here, and Mr. Dave Forney, who has been here longer than probably all of us. I'm very, very privileged to work with both of them. It's a wonderful opportunity. I wanted to have this evening, which has been rescheduled, and I was not going to reschedule it for the basketball game, because I heard a lot of people concerned about things that are happening, and I wanted you to hear it from us and give you the chance to talk with us. If you will excuse me, I want to read a little bit. I want to do, because I want to make sure I say what I really want to say, not just talk off the top of my head. I'd like to, I'm going to use a little PowerPoint if I can. I picked this quote because I believe that this is the message and the heart of Cotter, why we exist. I have come that you might have life and have it to the full. I think this is why Cotter was founded over 100 years ago, and I think why it continues to exist today. And in fact, this is really why all Catholic education exists. So how are we doing at Cotter at giving our students the knowledge and the skills they need to have life and have it to the full? I'd like to share some perspectives on that, my own, and I've only been here for about, I think it's 20 months now, and I've really learned a lot, and I'd like to share some of those learnings. First, I've learned that Cotter is a great school. It's made of great students, like this one who wrote this wonderful essay, like our girls who are fighting it out on the basketball court, like our students who are in the paper for doing robotics for wheelchairs for pets. You know, wonderful, we have wonderful students. We have wonderful parents, like you. The students do not come to us except from your tables in your homes. That's where they learn to be good people. They're bright, they're thoughtful, they're caring, and they're kids. You know, so sometimes we have other incidences with them in my office. But by and large, I see wonderful examples every day. I've also learned that Cotter is what I believe in a very important moment of transition. I think a number of factors are shaping this transition. Some of them are demographics. The demographics in Winona are changing. In fact, they're declining. If you'll notice in the paper you see, the public school is always scrambling to find more students. In fact, the demographics in Winona have probably decreased the number of school-age children about 17% over the last 10 years. That affects everybody. That affects them, that affects us. So that's one factor. Another factor is the economics of Winona. Quite honestly, until we began a visioning process a few months ago, I didn't realize the economic kind of base of Winona. And basically, the median income in Winona, the median household income is $37,000. And 23% of the Winona population is under the poverty level. That was really surprising to me. That directly affects the ability of a private school to exist and continue. Another factor is the history of Cotter itself. As you know, Cotter's had an interesting history of being a parish-supported, diocesan-supported school with Christian brothers for a long period of time, all male, then joining with the all-female school, various religious orders being here. And then in the late 80s and early 90s, the Cotter separated from the diocese and became its own private, independent Catholic school. And I think that that decision and that transition had a tremendous impact on Cotter today. When I first came, a lot of people didn't understand that. They were like, well, we're Catholic, but we're not connected to the diocese. And that's true. But the reality is Cotter is Catholic and basically on its own. There's no one above and no one below that's going to save us or rescue us or anything else. Cotter is private, independent school that belongs to all of you and to us. And the board has tremendous fiduciary responsibilities for that. So this change of leadership, and I think has left some lack of clarity and some lack of focus on what really we're doing. And I think the final factor is what I call a financial imbalance. Unfortunately, we're in a less than robust time, but we're not in trouble. We're not closing tomorrow or anything, but we're just not in a period where we're able to be frivolous about our resources. But I've also learned that Cotter is a community that has the desire, will, and dedication to deal with these issues, and I think to make the decisions we need and make choices for a better school, an even better school tomorrow. With this in mind, I'd like to talk about some of the choices that we as administrators and faculty have been making to achieve just that, making Cotter better. Cotter is a great school for great kids, and we want that to be even more so. We're in the midst of what I would call a visioning process. I've been working with the board of directors for about maybe a year now, asking some really hard questions. And these are some of the questions. What does it mean that Cotter is Catholic? It's not connected to the diocese. If it's not, it is connected, but it's not, the diocese is not responsible for us. What does that mean? How do we make sure that we are Catholic? The second one is, what level of academic achievement do we want? Are we, do we want kind of like really good, or do we want excellent education? This third one, I think, is an even more important question that many of you in this room have posed to me. Who will Cotter serve? Is Cotter only a college prep? Is Cotter open to all learners? Is Cotter only open to learners in the middle of the learning curve? Who exactly are we prepared to serve? That's a critical question for us to answer. And the fourth one is one that I think has been kind of hidden, and that's how is the boarding component a part of Cotter's mission? We've had boarding students for 20 years. This is our 20th year with students from across the world. And in some ways, they're kind of hidden. They're kind of, and I think it's time for us to ask, how are they a part of us? And how do we intend to respond to the tremendous responsibility it is to have 15-year-olds reside with us 24/7, 185 days out of the year, with parents thousands of miles away. That's a tremendous responsibility and a privilege. It's a wonderful opportunity too. So we've been going through this visioning process, kind of addressing these questions. I talked with the staff about them in December. I've talked with faculty about them. The board and I have been grappling with them, and we're continuing. At the same time, we've been undergoing this process called accreditation. You may have seen my note yesterday where I said on Sunday we hit submit and sent a 150-page document to Advanced Ed, which is the accrediting company or unit that accredits us. And in April 4th and 5th, they'll come, they'll go through every classroom, they'll talk with every teacher. They would welcome talking with any of you. They'll talk to students, they'll talk to the board. And in the end, then, they'll determine whether they will recommend that we be re-accredited. Cotter has been accredited for years. It's a 5-year cycle. We were granted an extra year because of the transition in presidents, and so now we're ready. I have no doubt that we will be accredited. We're really ready. We've done our homework. But that process has really been helpful to us. It's really helped raise up data and ideas and concerns. And the data from all of you, some of you may remember, filling out the survey. Every student filled out a survey, board members filled out surveys, staff filled out surveys, and that data from the surveys really became the core of our what is called the Continuous Improvement Plan. So these two processes together, I don't think it was coincidental that they occurred together. They've really sharpened for us what we believe we need to really work on to improve. I think the single most compelling thing that I heard from students and parents was that students want to be engaged in their learning in more significant ways. They really want to be engaged. They don't want to just pass time, sitting in classes, taking tests. They want to be engaged. The other thing that was raised up is the whole point of that people learn differently. We have different learners. It doesn't mean they can't learn, it just means they learn differently. And we aren't always prepared to teach differently. And so for us as teachers, it's learning new strategies, new techniques that will enable us to really address the needs, the different needs of all of our learners. And the third point that, again, many of you said and the teachers themselves said is they really want a process of professional development. That our teachers are committed and they love our kids. They just love our students. And they want to know how to do better, but they need help doing that. They want training, they want professional development. So these are some of the things that we really are going to be focusing on very specifically over the next year. And we wrote these specific 3 and 2 other goals as the 5 goals of our continuous improvement program. The other 2 were that the board would continue to work more effectively and more strategically. And the 5th one, I think, was regarding English language learners and really helping our students who come here to learn English learn it quicker and better and be more fluent when they leave. So this year, Mr. Uribe introduced some initial changes to focus on how we might begin to address some of these. And these are some of the things that we've done so far. So some of the concerns we heard last year were a lot of parents were very concerned about the disruptions and the early dismissals. We were getting out kind of irregularly, and so this year, if you've noticed, we're out every day at 3:22. And that's been great, because Mr. Uribe has really made sure that our class time, the time students are in class, is protected. Now, that's had some struggles and hasn't always gone over positively, but by and large, that's why. It's so students are in class and uninterrupted and in a very regular basis. The other thing we heard a lot about last year was communication. Obviously, you can never communicate enough. You know, you feel like you communicate, and the people say, well, why didn't you communicate? So, but we have tried. We instituted the Cotter Connection, that weekly newsletter that comes out on Tuesdays. Hopefully it will help, it's helping you keep abreast of, come on in, Mary, where are you? Just walk in front here too. So it's hopefully helping you keep abreast of what's happening on a weekly basis, tests that are coming, scholarships available, games, all of that kind of thing. The other things we are currently introducing, and some of you have already experimented with it, a new parent portal where you will access student assignments, student grades, etc. And it's called RenWeb. Some of you, I know some of you have already enrolled, re-enrolled online using that, and I'd encourage more of you to do that. Because we're currently in the process of trying to design courses, and until we know the students are returning, we don't want to do that. So that's being done to, again, help us to be more efficient with you, helping you to, your lives are busy, busy, busy. So hopefully this is a way that you can get in, get out, see what your kids are doing, and get the information you need. The last one is probably the hardest one, and that's the one we've certainly heard about, is we always hear cost. Cotter costs so much. We have lots of people who don't even consider Cotter because they look down the road and they say there's no way we can do that. So we're trying to find a way, two things. One, to right size. 2007, we had 453 students, and we had about 30 teachers. In 2014, we have 343 teachers, 343 students, and about 30 teachers. So the student-teacher ratio in 2007 was about 15:1. This year it's about 12:1. And so that can't continue. And so we've made some changes for that. But we're also trying to find ways to communicate that we'll work with people on tuition. And that's any ideas you have on how we do that better, I'd be grateful. Because it's really true. People pay everything from $1,000 to $30,000. Our international students pay. That's a big gamut, and people pay everything in between. And so how do we communicate that we really want students here? We really want any student who wants to be here, and we'll do our best to make that happen. Finally, and I don't think I have this on here, maybe I do. No. So we also are looking at, for next year, looking at a form of engaging the students called project-based learning. Now, some parents have said to me, what, you're redoing the whole curriculum? No. Project-based learning is simply a technique for teaching. The curriculum stays the same, the courses stay the same, the teachers will be helped to learn how to do projects that are more practical and everyday related, so that the students are grappling with real life issues like wheelchairs for pets and things that they have to apply: math, science, history, writing. So that's probably one of the main things that we're looking towards. So these are some of the things I think we've already mentioned, how we're responding to those. Now, first of all, I'd like to say publicly and out loud, Cotter is not in trouble. I was at a St. Mary's event in the cities last week, and one of our benefactors came up and said, okay, what's the scoop? Everybody's leaving Cotter. are you leaving? Like, is it all going downhill? I said, no, why would you get that sense? And he said, well, everyone's leaving. I said, no. So I want to clarify, first of all, that not everyone's leaving. Some people have left to pursue other career choices. With much sadness on our part, Bea Salisbury was a tremendous loss. She went to Maury Miller Mentoring, great choice. Bill Crozier, happily teaching in Rochester where his wife is doing her work. Mandy Olson, working at the county in a different position. Bruce and Jenny Carpenter, moving to Montana to pursue college athletics. So others have chosen to retire, very few. Don Nitty is one of the few who he chose to retire last year. And 9 are choosing to retire this year. But I promise you that all of the classes will be professionally and competently staffed. These are the 9 who are retiring, and what I like to point out is it's 255 years of dedicated service. The combination of these 9 people who came to Cotter around the same time, who are all either past retirement or within 2 years of retirement, have given selflessly. They deserve to retire. So I think that's the message that we want to convey, is that these are dedicated, loving teachers who your students have loved over the years, and they're just choosing to move on. And so we're going to have a party to celebrate the 255 years of service, and everyone will be invited. But that's the real story on that one. Now, we will not be replacing all of these positions because, as I mentioned, we don't need 12 to 1. We need the ratio to be a little higher. But as soon as you all re-register, then we can know how many teachers we're really going to need to staff all the sections that we need. So this is the true story. So I'd like you to share that with your neighbors if people say, what's going on at Cotter? I hear everybody's leaving. You know, this is the real story. We're very, very lucky. Very few schools have this level of commitment and dedication. And as I've told them, their positions will be filled, but no one will ever take their place. We will never have this level of commitment and dedication probably again. At least in bulk. We certainly have individuals. The next topic of lots of comments is the calendar. And the calendar, if you remember, we did do a survey. People seem to forget. We did do a survey of parents and faculty. And really, it was about 50-50. I think Mr. Uribe sent out 3 calendars. One started early, one started late, one did this. There was just some variety in them. People voted, and it was pretty split. So we landed on one. That poor Mr. Uribe thought I was one I really wanted because it was a much more balanced calendar. The semesters as we currently have them right now, let me just go to this next one. The semesters as we have them right now, this is for next year, but there's 176 days in the calendar. 79 of them are in one semester. 98 of them are in another semester. As an academic, that for me was a problem. I couldn't quite figure out how do you teach the same course in 79 days that you teach in 98 days. So I really asked him to look at an option that would balance the semesters. Well, we received, I'm saying here, a fair amount, AKA read a lot of feedback because the semester ended after Christmas. And numerous teachers and parents made it very clear to me that that was untenable. So I said, oink. I said, uncle. I'm not going to write that one. You know, there are too many other important things. I probably will continue to lobby for a more balanced calendar. But for next year, we are going to do this calendar. The semester will finish before Christmas. We start a little bit later in August, but we end in May with graduation on the 30th. those with seniors, mark that date down, start planning your parties now. So it works, you know, it's just, it's not to me ideal. It's not academically, I think, as strong as it could be, but we're going with it. We're not changing again, I promise, Mr. Judy. Okay. So the next one is the 7-period day. One of the major issues in attempting to control costs is the use of your paid faculty. 3/4 of our budget is salaries. So the more we efficiently use our teachers, the more, you know, cost effective it is. An 8-period day, for one thing, is relatively recent here at Cotter. Many people tell me most of their kids had 7 periods, and you know, so that for them was helpful. 8 periods creates more options. It creates at least one more option, one more alternative elective. It creates more teacher class times when we need to fill classes for teachers, and so it is more expensive. It's mathematically more expensive. 7 periods is a better use of our resources, and 7 periods for many of our students allows them to have fewer preps. That just for many of our students, having 8 tests, 8 preps, 8 classes, 8 sets of homework is really, really difficult. Our current plan is, obviously we have on the A and B days 4 and 4. The extra period on the B day will be a day that we use for advanced study, some electives, some mandatory study hall for those who need it, etc. And one of the complaints obviously is that the concerns that parents express is that students will not be able to do both band and choir. Now every elective suffers. I mean, if we're teaching the core subjects, every elective, art, language, band, choir, all suffer equally. Students can take multiple electives, can be in band and choir, but they just will have to choose and plan their schedule a little more carefully. I mean, it's not, we've worked it out so that it is possible. Will it be automatic? No, but it'll be very possible. I talked a little bit about this, I don't think I need to. This is the other topic that I know was very difficult for a lot of people, and I would tell you, there was no decision that was harder for me to make than this one. And that's the band field show decision. The field show for the band is a very time-intensive project. And as reported, especially for students, once classes begin in the fall, and they're busy with homework and tests and all of that, attendance at practices dropped to about 50%. So we simply have fewer students who are doing all the same things. We have 100 less students than we did 7 years ago, and yet we have all the same opportunities, events, activities. So the Booster Club came to me through Mr. Peters with a proposal to consider focusing on more competitive marching competitions and focusing the energies in the fall on the parades and competitive marching, and then also what he said to me was he felt more class time spent on fundamentals. A lot of time was spent on practicing for the parade, or for the field show. And I really would like to correct a comment that I've heard too numerous times to let go. It really was not a decision based on Mr. Peters' interests or his talent. It was simply a decision based on time and energy. We had one student faint because he was running off the football field to get on the band to go to the field show. Our kids are being stretched 9 ways to Sunday. So that was the decision on that one. The next one, this is one I'm not even sure I want to put up here. My favorite topic, the dress code. Obviously, this is a very emotional topic for students, parents, and me. Our only desire is to create a standard of dress that's respectable and enforceable. We think we have a pretty moderate dress code now. Our students think it's too stringent. Some students think it's just way over the top, way too stringent. The students have been very, what would be the word, very much not cooperating with it. The dress code has really deteriorated, in part because of the inability to enforce it. And that's not lack of our part, but as Mr. Uribe points out, what's a consequence that has meaning? He and I do not want a student sitting in the office missing class because they have the wrong shirt on. You know, I don't want to send them home to change their clothes and they miss 2 classes in the point while they're going home to change their clothes. So what's a consequence that can be meaningful and that can change behavior? So we had a meeting of some parents and some students. We're going to continue to try to pursue how do we find a consequence that is meaningful and go from there. This is sort of the end of my part. I just want to say that I have a dream for Cotter over the next 5 years. And this is my dream. I have a 5-year dream. And my dream is that every student that we accept and that comes to Cotter will achieve their full potential. We have kids with amazing potential. Amazing. And we have kids who work so hard for the potential they have. It just brings me to tears. I also really dream that Cotter can be viewed and seen as affordable and desirable to all learners, but learners who value discipline, respect, academic achievement, and faith-filled living. That's who we are. We're not compromising that to attract students. So I really want us to attract any student, any learner who wants that kind of environment. Obviously, I want Cotter financially stable and thriving. I want more families choosing Cotter, and my own personal dream is I want Cotter nominated as a blue ribbon school by 2017, and we can do it. There is no reason that we cannot achieve all of these. All of these goals are realistic, achievable, and within our grasp. And we simply need to work together for the benefit of our children. On a final note, this came across my desk the other day. Tell your students grades matter. This was a report that showed that a student's high school grade record is the most important factor in college admissions. So grades matter. So I believe we can achieve all that we want to. And I've worked with some great people so far in my 20 months. And I think we've achieved a lot. And I'd like us to achieve more.